You can use AI to brainstorm and ideate, but don't delegate your critical thinking capability to AI. We need to think.
It sounds obvious, but here's the real question. Are you using AI to create content, build campaigns, maybe even shape your marketing strategy? Because here's the real concern. When every brand uses the same tools, every brand risks sounding the same. This is the DesignRush Podcast. I'm your host, Kia Johnson. And today I'm sitting down with Pam Didner. She's the founder of Relentless Pursuit, a global B2B marketing leader, AI keynote speaker, 5-time author, and a former marketing strategist at Intel. If you care about branding, growth, and using AI without losing the human thinking behind it, make sure you subscribe and visit us at www.designrush.com. For now, let's get into the conversation. Hey there, Pam. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy to hear that, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. You've actually done some incredible work, I have to say, in the B2B marketing world. I've been catching a couple of things that you're doing within those spaces, and you're very busy and very active. I know you've got a book out as well. No, I've been watching.
Completely overrated.
No, you're not. I think it's really great to see, and it's one of the things that I absolutely loved when I was taking a look at the work you do. And I mean, a lot of us know about you within these spaces. It's just the absolute amazing way that you methodically bring things in. And so if I'm somebody who completely does not understand this at all, the way that you break things down, it would translate so easily into something that just about anyone can understand. And so I think sometimes there's a lot of confusion as to what happens, within these spaces. And so I love what you bring to the table. So I take my hat off to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
You are very welcome. So I'm going to literally put you in the hot seat right now because I want to get a bit of an insider peek, into what you do. I mean, you're helping companies to actually fix the famous marketing/sales tug of war, right? I mean, this is an ongoing war. We all know this. But in your experience with this, who would you actually say usually starts the fight?
That's actually very interesting. It actually depends on the company. I think maybe starting the fight is not necessarily, I would say, the right, terminology to use. It's more or less like everybody's very busy, so they focus on what they do. So salespeople are very busy, so they focus on, this is what I'm going to do. And then marketing was like, I have leads I need to bring to the company, so this is what we are going to do. They tend to focus on their own things, but in the world of digital marketing, especially in the current stage, the sales and marketing, or if nothing else, the handoff between marketing to sales needs to be seamless. That means that we have to provide a seamless customer experience, from the time that you reach out to them as a potential prospect until you hand that off as a sales qualified lead. So that requires the sales and marketing to have a very close communications, and most of the time they just don't. I would say, it's not necessarily they are actively fighting. It's more or less they are not talking to each other.
And I think it's something that actually has been cropping up, from time to time in some of the other podcasts that I've done, and also just from what, when one is sort of scrolling and you're having a look at what is trending and what is happening. Sales and marketing, there tends to be this misalignment that happens, a lot, which is actually quite bizarre because if you think about it, sales and marketing are supposed to be working in unison together, right?
Yes, they do. But the thing is, in the B2B side, the purchasing cycle can be very long. Because it's kind of like dating. Can I talk about that for a little bit?
Yes, please go on. I'm quite interested to find out where you're going with this. Yes.
So, for example, dating, if you and I hit it off, we're like, oh my God, the first 3 months we'll be talking to each other all the time. But at some point, that relationship is going to cool down, But how do you maintain that relationship and also that passion as time goes by, especially if you are in a long-term relationship, right? You need to keep that spark going. And I would apply that same analogy to sales and marketing. So maybe initially they do talk to each other, but over a period of time, we all get incredibly busy. So that kind of relationship, when you are not cultivate that relationship, or if you have a plan, then you have to fertilize it, right? So if you don't cultivate it intentionally, then then things can too kind of not necessarily falling apart. It's not there anymore. That's all.
That's so true. I mean, I was actually going to ask, how you ended up dedicating your career to fixing the relationship between sales and marketing. But just hearing what you're saying right now, I can absolutely hear the passion and just, the detail that you're bringing to it. So I can hear it's definitely one of your biggest passions. If you were to kind of like take us a bit more in depth into that, what would you like to add to that in terms of just yourself and just where you see yourself with this relationship between sales and marketing?
I see myself as a therapist. It's like I'm in a couples really, I'm like in a couples therapy, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of trying to be a bridge between sales and marketing and to try to understand where the gaps are and then help them fix the gap. But it's kind of like a therapist / consultant. So a lot of time you have to be a consultant, you have to be actively bridge the gap, build the process, and set up the tools that both sides can communicate with each other. But a lot of time, what I have discovered is they want to talk, aka complain. You know how it is. Like when you are in a relationship, there are certain things you are like, you know what, you guys are not doing this. You are annoying me. You kind of talk me through. So I have realized talking on the sales side and the marketing side, most of the time when I work with my clients, I usually don't talk that much initially, and I just let them do all the talking. And then once they actually share with me in terms of what they said, I will try to internalize it, and I will always try to clarify in terms of a lot of time, you know how it is. Like when you talk about something, but in reality, the causes might be something else, right?
Yes.
And so like sometimes my husband was like, well, don't cook that. When he say, well, don't cook that, he doesn't like it. That doesn't mean he doesn't like that food. Sometimes he doesn't like the smell of it. So you have to kind of get to the bottom of the causes, like why certain people has a certain complaint or a strong feeling, opinion about certain things. And I have come to realize when both sides, when they talk to me, and I have to really kind of drill down and find out what the causes are. Because what they think the causes are, in many times, that's not a cause. It's actually something else. You see where I'm coming from?
I see where you're coming from, and I'm finding this very interesting. I mean, because it's almost like, you're taking a step back and you're kind of letting everything happen within that moment, and then you let your clients just, unfold within that space. And I guess sometimes they just also need a neutral space to be able to air everything out. But I want us to stay on this right now because I'm finding this very interesting. I mean, what are the kinds of challenges and the obstacles or the blockers that you're seeing that are maybe like, you would say, the top 5 that are kind of really sticking out for you right now when you're looking at these relationships?
The sales and marketing relationship, right? Okay, there are many actually. Number one tend to be, for example, is the buyer's persona versus decision maker. And the salespeople was like, I need to talk to decision makers. Then the sales and the marketing people was like, no, well, they are prospects. So we need to actually talk to different people or the users plus decision makers. So that can be a gap between sales and marketing. And the other thing is timing. The second thing can be this: the salespeople has quota. They have to meet every single month and every single quarter. And the marketing, I don't know. We don't really have a quota that we have to meet on a regular basis. So that the sense of urgency coming from them might be a little bit different as well. Like sales was like, oh my God, I have this big hot lead. I need some support right now. And the marketing was like, you know what? We're about to launch a campaign. I'm actually kind of busy. So, that can be an issue. And number 3 is content. And for example, the salespeople were like, we need specific type of content that is actually applied to my sales stages. Okay. And then marketing was like, you know what? It's really about customer journey. I'm creating content really based on customer journey. So that can be a little bit different as well. So here are usually 3 very common, causes between sales and marketing that have a bit of friction.
I'm just thinking about, every time you refer to marketing, I'm just picturing like a group of people hanging out together and be like, yeah, man, I'll chat to you tomorrow.
They're not like that. I'm just like, I'm exaggerating. So if anyone's listening about this, and if I offend you, I want to apologize. I don't mean it in any possible.
I am so joking. I know exactly what you mean, though. It's just that the expectations and basically the goals and, it's and not the goals rather, but the expectations and just the levels of expectation as well. It does differ when you look at sales and marketing. And so if this is happening, I mean, what are the things that you then recommend, to get them back in alignment and to understand one another? I'm just curious about this.
So the 3 causes I'm talking about, that's just focus on what are the potential solutions that we can address it. Like sales really focus on decision makers, and then the marketing people tend to focus on decision makers plus end users, for example. And if your company is running account-based marketing, then some of your campaigns that's account specific, you can focus on decision makers. But on your overall marketing campaigns, you can focus on broader audience, if you will. So you have to look at, your outreach and the types of outreach that you do on a regular basis, and try to differentiate that and explain that to your salespeople. That's number 1. And number 2, be very cognizant that sales does have a quota they have to meet on a regular basis. And they get very antsy if they did not meet, say, the quota, 3 months straight. Then from your perspective, from my perspective as a marketer, a lot of time I will drop my stuff, deprioritize it, and then go help the salespeople. Because if they don't bring any bacons, I am not going to have a job, right? So from that perspective, I was like, you know what? I should run an email marketing campaign for this month, but that can't wait. So salespeople, what do you need? How can we work together? So that I will deprioritize some of the marketing's deliverables, actually very proactively supporting sales. You see? So these are the couple things I want to share that with everyone in terms of there are ways to bridge the gap. And a lot of time I have to say one thing, which is the marketing needs to take a little bit more proactive role doing that. Salespeople, they tend not to ask. I'm going to do a little gender profiling here. A lot of salespeople are men. You see men actually ask for, help. So I'm not saying that they don't, but I ran into several wonderful salespeople and they were like, we need some help. And I was like, yeah, we are on it, right? But if they are not asking and you kind of see that they are not meeting the quota and speak up and help them, they actually very appreciate when you speak up and try to help them.
I want to shift our conversation right now. I want to shift it to something that I believe is evergreen, but it's something that is just constantly trending all the time, and that is AI. I mean, we cannot not talk about artificial intelligence and just where we are heading with this right now, especially when you look at marketing itself, because right now, I think marketeers, are really utilizing AI to the umpteenth, and so we need to make sure that we understand this and we also understand the value and the non-value that it might be bringing. And so if you were to look at where AI is right now, just with regards to marketing itself, do you think that AI is actually helping or assisting to make marketing smarter and faster, or do you think it's actually backtracking in some way?
It depends on who you talk to and how you use AI. And everybody has a different opinion about it. And my thought and my point of view to a lot of marketers is you have to determine how you use AI, based on your job. That's number one. And you need to have a clear understanding, like when and how you're going to use AI. Like if it's repetitive tasks and it's a similar process on regular basis and you want to automate it, and definitely probably use AI to do that, right? But you can also use AI to brainstorm and ideate. But don't delegate your critical thinking capability to AI. I hate saying this. My friends, we need to think sometimes.
Yes.
And that should be our job to think. It's our job. You can have AI, you can gather all the files, you can gather all the information. You can ask AI to actually write a marketing plan for you for whole 2026 for that matter. Yeah, but that's okay. I'm actually okay with that, but I actually prefer writing the first draft of a marketing plan myself. Then I ask AI to polish it, right? So
Yes.
the thinking
Yes.
comes from me first. But you don't have to do that. You can actually gather all the files and be very practical about it, and you don't have time. You get all the information, you write an awesome prompt, you ask AI to actually write a marketing plan for you. I'm actually okay with that. The key is once the marketing plan is drafted by AI, it's your job to go in there and edit and polish the heck out of it.
Yes. To scrutinize it, basically, right?
Exactly. Because a lot of stuff, maybe the flow doesn't make any sense. Maybe they are emphasize the key points that you don't want to talk about, or maybe there's something that you don't even want management to see. Whatever that is, right? So my thought on this is you can delegate a lot of stuff to AI, but can you also be that gatekeeper or, a person that have a point of view that will leverage your expertise and knowledge to make whatever AI created better and also reflected who you are?
And I think that's very important, that you actually are you're the pioneer and the driver of the conversation. And so first compiling what you think should be happening and then feeding that into AI.
So they follow your direction.
When I feed it that information from what I believe should be in the documentation, etc., that I get so much more out of the AI.
Yes. So it's not generic and it's not general. It may actually capture some insight that you are looking for.
Exactly. And so, and that's one of the things that I think is a serious concern, at least for me. I'm sure some people are asking it. Maybe a lot of people are asking it. But if every company, is using the same AI tools, and every company is utilizing it that way where they're not specifically having each person be a critical thinker and actually feed that information in, but they are just, give me a draft plan for, XYZ. I need to get the strategy done for 2026, as you mentioned. And then it just spews out whatever, and you go, there's my document, And so brands will start sounding the same. Are you finding that this is happening right now? That there are brands actually starting to sound the same?
Yes, it does. If you think about it, I think that's called AI slop.
It describes it well, yeah.
I think that is something that a lot of brands and also marketing professionals do worry about. And I do as well, right? And I also concerned that my voice will be diluted because I, like everybody else, also use AI. But that's where your value add comes from. Right? So let's assume that you are using AI to create content. Let's assume you are using AI to actually even create the thought leadership information that you want to push out. And you will notice the information that generated by AI it can sound a little generic. And then that's your job as a marketing professional to edit and to make changes and to even run, your prompt many times. Or maybe you write it, your first draft, and then you feed into AI to have it polish it. So my thought on this is, yes, it's going to sound very similar. And my question back to you is, what are you going to do about it? You're the marketer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Then that's where humans, that's your superpower, and that's your value add comes in. That you need to actually do something about it.
And I like when you hit like that, I always feel like I just want to go there and go do it right now. But you're so right. And so, the companies, are adopting AI. I mean, left, right, and center. Just about everybody's now utilizing AI. I guess it's maybe a bit of that FOMO that's happening, like that fear of missing out, that some companies are adopting it because of that. And I think that wouldn't that then be the wrong reason for adopting it? That should you be adopting it with a very specific intention,
reason,
and with clarity? Oh, okay.
So you are totally right. So if anybody, hey, friends, so if you are listening to or watching this podcast, and if you actually have a FOMO, which is fear of missing out. So let me just make sure I'm going to tell you a story to address that 100%. So there's a term called a JOMO, joy of missing out. It's okay from my perspective to actually miss out a little bit. It's all right. Like, you are not going to be like catch up all the time. Like, a lot of time when we look at the social media posts and you look at your friend's post, it was like, oh my God, that's such a great photo. And then they were in Bahamas. And why am I here stuck in my job? And then you have this like FOMO, and I'm always like, you know what? Don't worry about it. They are having a great time. I'm very happy for them. In the meantime, if I'm very sad, why don't I just go to Starbucks and get a cup of Joe, and be happy about it. So find a way to address that FOMO yourself emotionally and also physically. That's number one. And to turn it around as a JOMO, is a joy of missing out. You don't have to be there to find your own joy.
I love
Seriously, that also applies to marketing. So yeah, let's assume you are not using AI a lot and you are in the manufacturing segment and your company just don't believe in it or don't have a budget to actually buy ChatGPT and give you, a subscription, whatever. You know what? It's not necessarily a bad thing. You do a lot of stuff like a human's supposed to do. I don't know. This actually might be good. Do you see there's always like a both sides? And I want to make sure everybody understand that don't always feel like, oh my God, the other side, the other side of grass is greener. Sometimes it's not. And the reason I said that is my youngest son, and he is 27. And do you know, I asked him once, and I said, what is your favorite decade? And because he's only 27, and so he was born in early, the late 1990s and the early 2000s. He was like, Mom, I love the 80s. I think 80s is the cool genre. And by the way, I was like, yeah, you're right. I 100% agree with you. So, and he loves photography. But instead of using iPhone, do you know what? He bought this camera. It's a vintage camera. You have to adjust manually and then to take photos. I mean, this child grew up with a phone. The things that he loves the most is something back in 1980s and 1970s. So what I'm trying to say is, even if you are not catching up with the pace of AI, you have to ask yourself, is a lot of stuff you are doing still good? Is the business still good? Is things getting done? Does that make sense? I mean, look at your business result to judge. Do you even need to have AI? And by the way, I use AI all the time. I teach AI. It's like my bread and butter. But sometimes when people telling me I'm not using it, I was like, good for you. I'm not trying to convert anyone. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I can see both sides. I do.
If you're looking at marketers as a whole, do you think then that they need to draw a line between the AI efficiency and the human creativity? I mean, we're touching on this a little bit right now, but what you think totally?
Oh, yeah. I personally think, I know AI can do a lot. In theory, AI can pretty much do everything. I mean, in theory, a lot of tech companies actually are moving toward that direction. And we see that coming. It's actually, this is the direction that we are going. AI is taking over certain kind of, the creativity, especially creating images and creating videos. And they are doing certain things that's super creative, which is fine. It's just another choice that we have. Like, come down to the creativity for the content that you are going to create. Then you have choices. Are you going to use human or are you going to use AI? It's almost like you have choice. And I don't want to kind of always pivot or compare that, it's always between AI efficiency and the human creativity. My thought on this is, we human or as a marketer within the company, you can somehow make that decision. If you decided to maintain that creativity within your company or within yourself, then so be it. But you can certainly try to use AI to get a sense, kind of like, how that was done. It's kind of like riding a bike. You and I both have learned how to ride a bike, and we know how to ride a bike. But in a real life, we're going to drive a car because that's faster, right? So that we learn how to ride a bike. Same thing. You should test and explore like some of the creativity being done by AI. Understand that. But then you can make a decision if you want to use the human part, the human creativity to actually get started, or do you want to use AI? My thought is they somehow, the way I see it, I tend to see things like in a positive way. So I tend to see they can coexist. And it doesn't have to pit one against the other.
So Pam, if you were advising a founder today, what is the one thing that you believe they should be protecting at all costs while they're adopting AI?
Communications. You always have to communicate with your employees. And I don't know, maybe you can communicate that very clearly with AI as well, because you do have to communicate clearly so for AI can follow your direction. But I know a lot of founders, even a lot of enterprises nowadays, they use AI, as a way to actually lay people off, or they use AI as to replace the headcount. But that doesn't mean you should reduce the level of the communication with your team. I personally think that is not something that you can delegate, and you should always have that the open channel communication with humans and possibly with AI as well. But the communication part of it should not be diminished just because you automate a lot of processes using AI.
I'm thinking, as you're saying this, I'm picturing, like warriors with their sword and their shields. And I'm thinking instead of laying people off, actually arming them with these tools, to be able to be the best they can be for the business and have a really fantastic, bunch of team members.
I think so too.
Pam, thank you so much for joining us on the DesignRush podcast. It was an absolute breath of fresh air. Really enjoyed your insights, and wow, it was just, for me, it was absolutely amazing. I look forward to seeing what's going to be happening in the next couple of years. I think you're just going to be going to greater and greater heights all the time.
Thank you so much, Kia. You're so kind. The respect is mutual. I wish you the best of luck for everything you do. Let's keep rocking. Let's keep rocking. Yeah. We can do that.
Yeah, I hear you. Let's keep rocking. Thank you so much, Pam.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Curious about what top brands look for when choosing an agency? Tune into our latest episodes where we reveal the decision-making secrets of leading brands. Subscribe to the DesignRush podcast and stay ahead of the competition.